first thing I'm going to do is start recording. And then I'm going to spotlight Tessa. Let's see. We also have a couple of our pre-STEM students who are joining us for this session because this is such an amazing group of speakers that we wanted to open it up to our pre-STEM students as well. So why is it that I'm not seeing how to spot? I think Amanda, Cody, and Tessa and Renato. So Renato, you're already, if you can turn on your video so I can spotlight you. So that's one. And then Cody. Oh, Tessa, there you are. Okay, so let me spotlight you. And then Amanda, there you are. Let me spotlight you. And where did I see Cody? Cody, there's Cody. Awesome. Okay, so let me spotlight Cody. And great. So the first thing is, I think I shared this in Pronto, but I want to share the bios that we've written up with on all of these amazing speakers. And I'm not going to introduce, I'm not going to read these bios because I think it's better that they introduce themselves. And so, but I want to share it in the chat if anyone wants to look up and get more information on who our amazing speakers are. So I'll put it in the chat. But I'll do a brief introduction and then I'll ask you all to please share your pronouns if you're comfortable, your identities, any identities that you identify with if you're comfortable, and a brief description of your position and where you work and what your research is on. And just starting with that, because then we're going to go into your upbringing and your journey and all of that. So no need to do all of the above as we start, just from the introductions. But let's start with Amanda. How about you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Carbajal. My pronouns are she, hers, ella. I am currently a fourth-year PhD candidate at UC Santa Cruz. And I study the genetic basis of antibiotic resistance, with specifically E. coli that cause urinary tract infections, and more specifically, the class of antibiotic known as fluoroquinolones, and just basically trying to understand the mechanisms that different mutations allow these bacteria to evade the drug from binding and thus working, and using this information to also design a new class of antibiotics that can anticipate how these mutations provide these benefits so that they can still bind to them and thus be useful.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Cody, how about you?
Hi, everybody. So yeah, my name is Cody Aldaz. I'm a male. I go by he, him. So I grew up in Pueblo, Colorado. It's like a medium small town. And I didn't really know about science or research until I got into university. So I think maybe many of you feel that way too, that you really didn't know that this was a whole big thing, and research is really important. So yeah, so I got into research in undergraduate, and and I'm still doing it. I fell in love with it. It's really amazing, and I hope that you guys have had a chance or will have a chance to do that. It's a really great way to learn and explore and all that stuff. So right now I'm at Stanford and I'm a postdoc. So that means I got an undergraduate degree, then I got a graduate degree, and then I loved it so much I went and got another. I'm not getting a degree with this next thing. It's just post-doctoral work. So it's just extra stuff that I could do after I got my doctorate. So technically I have you can call me Dr. Aldaz, but just call me Cody. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. So I work on a computer, and I have a couple students here today. So yeah, so that's all about me.
Awesome, thank you. And Tessa, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Tessa. My pronouns are either she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs. As far as my identities, I'm first gen, grew up in relatively low income circumstances, definitely queer, and I am also a survivor of domestic abuse. As far as my current position, I am a senior grad student, PhD candidate at Stanford in a lab, Miriam Goodman's lab, where I'm working on a project called Neuroplant, which is basically focused on trying to have a better handle on what kinds of plant-based compounds can have effects on the nervous system. And I get to do that work using little tiny worms called C. elegans, which I feel so much more comfortable with than something that's cute and fuzzy like a mouse. I absolutely see the value of those kind of research programs, but for me personally, I'm just like, but I would like it to be my pet. And that makes it really hard to turn it into a research subject. So.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Tessa. And Renato.
Hello, everybody. My name is Renato Navarro. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a first generation, I guess, postdoctoral fellow. I really didn't know what to put because I don't consider myself a student anymore, right? So, but I'm Mexican American, immigrated here from Mexico. And right now I'm at Stanford. Actually, Cody and I have been following the same migratory pathway since Michigan and moving into California. I just realized we were at the same place around the same time. Anyways, my work here at Stanford deals with developing materials in which we can encapsulate cells and provide the right environment in order to cause them to do exhibit certain behaviors, or we call like phenotypes or whatnot. Additionally, like my main project here focuses on developing these gels that we can inject into the myocardial space after somebody has a heart attack, and that hopefully we can deliver like a gene therapy that will prevent like the myocardial zone from increasing and hopefully cause some regeneration in that space.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So this panel is called My Journey from Community College to a PhD / Postdoc. One thing that all 4 of our speakers have in common, including myself, is that we all started in a community college and went on to either are currently pursuing PhDs, finished PhDs, or are doing postdoc research. And I think there's a common misconception about the way that people who are doing PhDs in STEM maybe grew up, the kind of background that they came from, that they were maybe exposed to STEM or always liked science or always believed that they were going to be a scientist. And I think that definitely was not the case for me. I hated science in high school, did not ever see myself in this field. And I know that all of our speakers share very unique stories with how they grew up and how they were first exposed to STEM. So I thought you could all share a little bit more about like your background, how you grew up, and then where did this like first kind of light bulb go off, like, oh, I like science, or I could be good at this. For different people, maybe they had that from a young age. For some people, like that light bulb came later in life. But would love for you all to share a little bit more about that process for you. So I think I'll just open it. Whoever wants to start first and then jump in, please feel free.
Sure, I'm happy to. I also realized I did not mention my identities previously, so I'd like to rectify that. So I am a first generation Latinx person, daughter of immigrants. So my parents both came from Mexico, and I'm from a very low economic background. So that's how I identify, which is a great preface for how I grew up. I grew up in a very small migrant town in Southern California. My parents worked in the strawberry fields, and so they were pretty busy with that, and they, wanted a better life for their children, but they didn't know exactly how that was going to be achieved. So school wasn't really pushed upon me, or wasn't a priority. It was just like, go to it and don't get in trouble. And I really liked learning. But once I got to high school, I went to a high school where yeah, not very much was expected of me. So I almost didn't even graduate, right? I was not a good student. I wasn't engaged. And so I sort of serendipitously found school because I wanted a discount with my car insurance. And it turns out if you have a 4.0 GPA, even if you take one class, one semester, as long as it says 4.0, you can get a really good discount. And so I started to take a bunch of random classes because I wanted the discount. And then I started to realize I was running out of art and PE classes to take. And then, so then I just started taking other classes, and I just landed with a really good pre-algebra math teacher that really was like, that you can do this, like, this is it, like, you got this, right? And that teacher really helped me think like, okay, maybe I have been limiting myself for some reason, because I do obviously like to be at school because I'm here a lot. And I just kind of started that way, but it was really, really hard because I didn't know what I was doing. To transfer, right? The CSUs and the UCs both have different requirements, and like, it was, the internet wasn't huge back then, so I had to like rely on what people were saying, and they're really impacted, right? There's one counselor, there's a long line, so it just felt like an uphill battle, and it really was like that because I didn't have, I did everything part-time because I was working full-time, right? It takes time and money to do school, and so somehow I was able to transfer to a 4-year school, and I feel really fortunate that I was able to go to San Francisco State, which is a pretty diverse public school. So I fit right in, and I didn't feel like such an outsider. But once I got to PhD, that's when I realized that most people's parents are part of the academy, right? Or their uncles or their grandparents. And they have all this insider knowledge that for me was really not part of my pathway, right? And so that was just super eye-opening. I remember one time, so I've worked at NASA. I was giving a talk, and I came in and they were just like, you're not giving this talk. And I'm like, I literally am. That's my name, here early. And they were just super confused by how I was going to give the talk. I think they thought I was part of the custodial team or something. I don't know. And so just like little mix-ups like that, like trying to get into my building, people are, want to play 20 questions. They're like, you don't look like a scientist, right? And so just stuff like that is really been part of the whole journey. And yeah, I'm happy to answer questions later. I don't want to hog it up, but that's been my experience in a nutshell. So I'm very happy to be on this panel.
Amanda, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing. I do want to encourage you. I know I have a series of questions that I sent to all of you prior, but if your question starts to bleed into some of the other questions, it's okay. We can fill in the gaps as we keep moving forward. So feel free to share freely. That was amazing and so inspiring, Amanda. Thank you. Who wants to jump in? I know you all have such interesting stories. I feel so blessed to host this panel today.
I think I can. So similar to Amanda, when we immigrated from Mexico, like we went into this community of people, like, because you tend to aggregate within your own people. And my parents also, like, they came here for a better opportunity, not only like for them to have better jobs, but at the same time to provide us like a chance for education. But it kind of just stopped there because they weren't educated, so nobody could really help you like how to do your homework or succeed in like higher level math or anything. So I got into like it with the bad crowds. I ended up getting kicked out of regular high school, and I went to the bad kid school, which then like I really like narrowed like my path of like what is going to be available for me afterwards. Fortunately, like after high school, I joined the military, and it was there during the military time. One, I realized that hard work outside is like, man, that's really tough, right? So there's got to be like a better way if you want, like depending on what it is that you want. So I was also able to meet like a ton of different people from different backgrounds, and some of them had gone to higher education. So I got to like have these like one-on-one conversations with them, and they were able to share with me like how like education can like change your life, and that's not necessarily that you're just going to have like this financial windfall, but like the different doors that are available and the different interests that you can pursue. So when I left the military, I started in community college because I didn't have the best high school background, and then on top of that, like I wasn't ready for the level of university classes that I needed to do in order to get where I'm at now. So it was like a hard time to take all the remedial courses all over again, and then kind of slowly work myself up. After I went to undergrad, I was still kind of in the Army Reserves. I ended up getting deployed one more time. And then when I came back, I was like in this weird transitional period where I didn't know what to do. And I ended up taking like some classes at a small university for like a master's program. And there I met like a mentor. And this is kind of what struck with like what Amanda shared, that like, you know, there's these opportunities sometimes where you can meet somebody who's gonna like open up your eyes to like the potential that it's in you, and not only will they help you see that, but then at the same time they're gonna be able to help you get to the door. And for me, it was her name is Professor Tanya Benecourt, and she like taught me how like about biomaterials, and she like helped me how to like take my interest and my skill set and pursue like a PhD in like material science and engineering, and then like develop like my interest and how I can like use my interest in helping people. So yeah, sorry, I didn't want to go too long.
No. Like I said, we love, I'm like grasping onto every word you're all sharing, and I know everyone else is, I'm sure, as well. So yeah, that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Tessa, or Cody or Tessa, whoever wants to jump in.
I'm good to go. So I think I am actually that stereotypical, I always knew I liked science person. My mom sometimes jokes that I never outgrew the stage that 2-year-olds go through, where they just ask why about everything. I'm like, no, well, but why is the grass green? And like, why does this happen? And how does that work? And, so I've always loved science. I've always loved understanding how things work. And for me, fundamentally, that's what biology is about, is just sort of really wrapping my brain around like, how is this all put together? How does it function? Why does it function that way? Is all really cool to me. But my progress to actually becoming a scientist was definitely not smooth. As I mentioned, I'm a survivor of abuse. So I grew up in an abusive household. And even though I did well in school because I saw that as my way of escaping, nobody in my household thought that I should go to college, that I should just go make babies and get married, and that was my function. So I went to college on my own. I had managed to get some scholarships to pay for the majority of my tuition. And in part because I was a first-gen student, I did not understand how different it was walking into a college classroom after being in a high school classroom. And also, for context, my graduating class in high school was 91 people. So like, it was, so to walk into a single classroom where there were 250 students was just boggling. And I failed badly. I walked away with like a 1.2 GPA at the end of my first year. So like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that I failed. And because up to that point I had been like a stellar student, and that was like who I was like, wait, I fell apart. So I went and I worked. ended up moving to a different state for reasons that turned out not to be great, but but I'm glad that I ended up in California. And it took me 5 years to even start trying to go back to school. I knew that I wanted to, and I also was desperately afraid that it hadn't been the specific circumstances of the first time that I tried to go to school, but just like fundamentally, there was something wrong with me and it wouldn't be something that I could do. So I started back at the community college slowly, part-time. Also, like I think Amanda mentioned, I was working a lot of hours. And so it took me like 5 years to get through the normal 2 years worth of community college coursework. The good news was that I ran into some awesome mentors. Beth McPartlin was a teacher at my teaching bio and was one of the first people to just like really sit me down and tell me like, no, this is something you can do. And she asked me to actually TA for her the following quarter after I had taken her class. And that was just like both such a vote of confidence in my ability and like so exciting because it was fantastic. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved being able to explain things to other people. It was fantastic. And so I had thought that I probably wanted to teach because I'd always enjoyed doing that sort of thing. But that I think was sort of the crystallizing moment. I was like, oh, I definitely want to do this. Eventually, I got around to transferring. I went to San Jose State, got lucky again, and ended up being able to be one of the inaugural members of Rachel French's lab, which is a developmental neurogenetics. They've shifted focus since I was there a while ago. So what they're currently working on, I think, is slightly different than now. So I'm not sure if they would describe their lab the same way now, but and that was my first chance to try. Well, that was my first real chance to try like hands-on sustained research, and it turned out that I loved that too. And Rachel was another mentor who really, really encouraged me when I was looking at applying to graduate school. Was also one of the first people to tell me that for biosciences, a PhD doesn't cost you anything, that in fact, they pay you a stipend, which was mind-blowing to me. I was like, wait, and I assumed that I had to get first the master's and then the PhD. She was like, no, you can just go straight to the PhD. And that was also something like had never occurred to me. I had no idea. I just sort of assumed it's this like hierarchy, right? Like you get your bachelor's degree and then you get a master's and then you get a PhD. But so yeah, so I was super excited about the like, wait, I can just go straight to the PhD and they're going to pay me to go to school. That is a pretty sweet deal. And I was not going to apply to Stanford. I was sure there was no way I could possibly get in. And Rachel talked to me very firmly about it and was like, no, you need to apply there because I think you've got a good chance. She was right. I got in. I got in at 5 of the 6 places that I applied. 4 of the 6 places that I applied. And then I started here. And it's been a rocky journey here. But I'm plugging along. And also I talked, I think, more than I should have. So Cody.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's a big task to go last after all these amazing speakers. I will say though that I think what we all have in common and kind of what's really needed to be a scientist is to have grit. We're all fighters, we're all survivors. We all have had failures and overcome challenges. But that's not to say like that you're alone, right? I think having somebody, one person is all that it really takes to really change your whole mind and your whole life, right? You just meet somebody and they tell you that they believe in you and they, that you could do it, and that just changes everything. That was how it worked for me too. And I think Amanda and Renato also said that. And maybe Tessa has a story. I don't know if you said something about that, but I think that is a big thing. And I hope some of us have been, or I hope we have that opportunity to be that person to somebody in the future too, because it's really special. Because I remember very like vividly this person and how they had this like faith in me, and it really just changed my whole like perspective Because like I said, I didn't know anything about like research or academia. Like when I was in, like, even like in my second year of undergraduate, I didn't know anything about like this whole academia thing. But I knew, like, I always knew I loved science. Like as a, growing up, I was always like kind of like everybody was always like Cody's smart or something, but like I didn't really have any like accolades or anything. Like I didn't grow up in that kind of environment where like I could really be like foster. Like I didn't have any opportunities. Yeah, I grew up very poor in like a single mother household, and there's a lot of like drug abuse and like poverty in my family. So that was like really like I like it was really terrible, but it also like inspired me to be different and be a change. Because I looked at that and I was like, I never want to like be like them. I want to be better, and and that's what like pushes me every day, because I want to be better every day. Like to learn everything I can and to better myself, and also to help other people, because that's important. We have to work together to make a change. Um, so that's a little bit about my story.
Awesome. Thank you, Cody. So I'm so glad that we're hearing some of these stories. The first thing I want to emphasize is that, and what I'm hearing over and over again, is that the path is not linear. So we have many students that like they've attempted college maybe 2 or 3 times, or I know of students on this call that the first time they attempted it was disastrous, and then they went away for several years and came back, and now they're trying again. And maybe because they're a little bit older, they think, oh, every like the PhD thing, the research thing, it all sounds great, but it's too late for me. I'm late in my career. So I'm so glad that we're hearing these like non-traditional stories and also these non-linear stories, because all of you are now either pursuing a PhD or a postdoc, which is like the other end of the rope. And yet it was not a linear path. I have to admit, for me, it was like I did 3 years at community college, 3 years at Berkeley, and then 6 years in my PhD program. So it was pretty linear, but it's not that way. So I just want to make sure that our students really know that no matter what your background is, and no matter how many times you've tried this, it doesn't define at all your success. What Cody said is your grit defines your success, your perseverance. And so, yeah, so you see, they're all sharing their, Amanda and Renato are sharing their ages. They're in their mid-30s, mid to late 30s. So, and I know Tessa mentioned she took several years off of school as well and then came back again. So I really love that. I didn't know that when I invited you all, but it's just so inspiring to hear all of that. And I think that's resonating with a lot of our students. I wanted to ask the next question, and some of you have already kind of touched on this, but the journey from community college to a PhD program, like, is there anything that you did, like either at community college or once you transferred, that helped you make that transition, easier, that maybe you haven't already talked about, that you could add when it comes to specifically making that big leap from community college to graduate school? And feel free to jump in at this point.
I have one thing that I think is huge, which is community building. So over the time that I was at De Anza, I slowly realized that for me, my personal success was deeply dependent on having a community, both like people just like in my corner in general rooting for me, and also like other students. So I would actively spend huge amounts of time like collecting people to make study groups, and like at that point, like having people come over and like making a batch of chili, and we would just like spend all day Saturday studying, kind of thing. And like that community building, and it also has sort of this built-in accountability if you've got like a regular study group that you're meeting with people and that sort of thing. But just like that sense of camaraderie, that sense of there are other people who want me to succeed, that there are, paths forward, and that if I'm not understanding something, there are other people who are willing to like wrestle with it with me, was just huge. And so that was the biggest thing that I took with me from community college and like immediately implemented when I got to the 4-year university. And it made a huge difference.
That's beautiful. We just had a session 2 weeks ago on networking and the importance of like building community, and also just of our students getting a chance to know, our speakers. So all of you. So hopefully at the end you share your contact information and they connect with you and they reach out to you, and also getting to know people in their lab and getting to know each other. And so I love that you mentioned that. It goes right in line with like what we've been kind of preaching this whole time. Renato, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. I think for me, it was like realization that like community college was a little bit almost like a tiny extension of high school for me. And I felt like they very much had this like set, like, oh, you have to take these classes and you have to do this like very set thing, and almost like made me feel like I had to think in a certain kind of way. So like once like I transitioned into grad school, I really sat down and really thought about like the skills that like it will take to like to succeed, and then like what people were telling me like why I wouldn't succeed, right? And like I most of the time I was told I wouldn't succeed because I'm like stubborn. I'm like I want to do things my own way, and also like I'm a dreamer, which is like really okay, fair, and maybe not the best to like for community college. It was like kind of like I struggled a little bit because I had to show up to class and I had to like have these set hours. But like when it came to grad school, like all these like negative things that people kept telling me became like positive things, because you in grad school, like you're gonna fail a lot of times, but it's like that stubbornness that like people hated and told me that was gonna be like a bad thing became a great thing, because it kept me like going after every failure, and like, and then also being that wanting to do things like my own way. Like it's so lauded in graduate school and stuff, because like they want you to like do something that has never been done before, and to think about a question in another way that nobody has ever thought about it. So it was like, I was very successful because of that. And also being a dreamer has helped me in that, like, hey, like I think I can succeed, and I'm gonna succeed because like I said I was gonna. And that's pretty much like, been very helpful for me. So once I was able to like put out the things that like people were like to think about, the things that people were telling me like why I wouldn't succeed in like higher education, and then like turn them around into reasons why I can succeed, it was like I was able to tell myself like, you know what, graduate school is for me, and like I can do this. And that was really helpful, and at least psyching myself up to stay the really long tenure that it takes to graduate from like graduate school.
Awesome. Cody and Amanda, did you want to add anything? You don't have to.
Yeah, I took 10 years in community college, and I went to various community colleges, and they're all a little different. So I would say if you are capable of going to a couple of them, just check them out, right? And you'll see which one has more to offer, whatever your needs are. And so that was really helpful for me. And yeah, also like Tessa and others have said, community building, like I tell my students, half of everything is who you know, the other half is what you know. This is so true, like time and time again. Every time it happens, if I had $1, I'd be a millionaire, right? And so really showing up and having a good impression with your professors and your peers is really important. And also learning how to advocate for yourself is really hard, but if you can start learning it, so like asking questions, going to office hours, like, do you have space in your research group? Do you know anyone that's looking for volunteers? Kind of being really just on it, like really hustling. So kind of developing that even at the community college level, it's going to set you up for success. And you'll also get a sense of whether or not you like that flow, right? And so if you're really liking it, you're doing all the right things, you're going to get that exposure, and then that's going to really help you continue on the path, because you're making these connections, but you're also getting experience. And then of course, once you transfer, Once you've acclimated, not while you're acclimating, right? Because there's also that acclimation period. You want to get your first semester or two like under your belt, like really do super well, then start looking for research opportunities, right? Once you're acclimated and you've really been successful academically at the new institution, now you're ready to really put forth that hustle even higher to, yeah, just ask everyone, even if it's not something that's interesting, right? Like just get experience. Doesn't matter what it's in, right? Some people are like, I need to do neuropathology in infants. Don't worry about that right now. Like just get experience, right? Make those connections. You might find you like something else. So just staying open-minded too, and not like, I'm only interested in med school, right? Because I was also interested in med school, but I was, flexible. Be flexible, right? If anything, the pandemic has taught us is you really have to be flexible, if you haven't learned that in your life yet. And then that's also good for science. So win-win.
I just have one small thing to add. I know a lot of students transfer out of Foothills to go to other CS schools, and I just want to tell them that that's really great, and to never like be embarrassed about your time at Foothills. Like I think it's really smart actually to go to Foothills and get some basic credits, and then once you're ready, go to like the CS schools, because these schools are really expensive, and honestly I don't really agree with how expensive they are. So if you're saving money by going to Foothills and taking that time to prepare yourself to go to a 4-year degree, like that's really smart. Never be embarrassed about that. Also part of being a scientist is embracing, don't be embarrassed to say, hey, I'm a scientist, I like science, really if you transfer, embrace that. Okay.
Awesome. This is such amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing. So the next question is really, and I know that a lot of you have touched on a lot of this. So the next question is around like sharing obstacles that you've encountered along the way and how you've overcome them. I know a lot of you have already talked about a lot of significant obstacles that you've overcome, but if there is more that you haven't mentioned already that you'd like to share, please feel free, because I know a lot of our students, and especially with COVID now and everything, they're just going through a lot, and it's really inspiring to hear, other stories of how people have encountered similar situations and overcome them.
If I could just add, I think it was Tessa who's mentioned about building a community. I think as you progressively get higher and higher in higher education, like you start to almost feel isolated, because depending on your background, you're not going to have people who have the same experiences, so like it's rare that I'm going to walk these Stanford halls and find like another immigrant who came here legally, who went to a bad kid school, who then did like 10 different things before getting here. Probably the standard norm is you're going to find somebody who went to MIT or one of these other like Ivy schools, and then they're here, and then they're like, have a nice career afterwards, and their parents had probably like similar backgrounds. So it's hard, because you do feel a little bit isolated. These opportunities, like, you have to take them, like me getting to meet Tessa and everyone else in this Zoom call. And it's important to make the time for me, because I feel like by making sure that like I can help even one or two of y'all, like then this area is going to be a little bit more diverse, and hopefully that will trickle down into a bigger change. Eventually it's going to look just like this Zoom call, because like everybody has the potential to be here and to do great work here. We just have to make that, open up these doors.
Awesome. Anyone else want to share anything about any obstacles they haven't already talked about that they are still continuing to encounter, and kind of like how they just keep moving through?
Sure, I can speak on the financial piece. You definitely do get paid as a PhD student, but living in this area, in today's day and age, it's not enough. So I work like several jobs, and I have worked several jobs throughout undergrad and master's and PhD. So I do have to say, like, a high ability to acclimate and be super organized, and also how to market yourself, right? Like I am the instructor of record at several universities. Like I'm an adjunct lecturer. So I had to learn how to like market that and how to really do well in an interview and how to teach, right? So you'll find that you have to seek out like workshops and other opportunities to really add the skill set to your CV, but you want to do it intelligently so that it's something that still falls in line with your values in your field. So I teach like biological evolution, which is in my field, and it's also a great way for me to really be on my material, the foundations, right? So find relevant ways to solve some of the issues that you might be having. And so for me, it's always been financial, right? I'm competing with software engineers in Silicon Valley. It is so hard, right? I have a service animal. Nobody wants a dog around, right? It's so hard. And you just sometimes you have to be okay with going slower, and it might feel bad, but you just have to know that you're on your timeline, and just not to compare yourself to other people, right? And like Renato said, we're isolated. My parents, are happy for me, but they're like, Mija, you're gonna die in school, right? Like you've been in school so long, like when is it gonna pay off? Like you're just always struggling over there, you and your school. Like you want to help us out, right? Like so like my goals and values are like, once I get my PhD, I'm gonna help my family out, I'm gonna take care of them. But they're like kind of like, we're waiting over here, like when is that gonna happen? And I'm like, just hold on, right? And so like people may not understand. My friends that aren't in academia, that aren't pursuing grad school, they're out like buying houses, getting married, and doing all the things, going on vacations, and I'm just like, cool, I'll like it on Facebook. So it is a sacrifice in many ways if you're not hooked up with family resources. I also work with people who don't have to worry about that because their families are able to give them financial help every month, pay their rent, right? So you kind of don't want to feel bad, you don't want to feel bitter, but you just want to feel grateful and just learn to be super savvy and like, okay, this is what I have to do, I'm gonna do it. And you can form community with other people that are also in similar boats, right? And then again, using your network when you need help, and just trying to be open and saying like, hey, I can't do that, right? Like I really need this or that. So I would say those are the top obstacles that I have seen as a theme in my trajectory.
Yeah, I think a lot of our students can relate to that, Amanda. So it's really amazing to see how you're encountering and overcoming those obstacles. So let's move on. And this is the next question on the queue. And then the exact same question just came in to me from one of our students. So we're all on the same wavelength. But this is a meaty one. It's around imposter syndrome. And it's, do you face any kind of imposter syndrome, and how does that kind of present itself, and how do you overcome these situations? And I think that's probably someone that everyone has something to share. So jump in and we'll just go round robin.
If it's okay if I take the lead on this one. I actually taught a workshop on overcoming imposter syndrome. So there's a couple of things, and I've continued to kind of keep an eye on this as well. I definitely have experienced it. I definitely have felt the people like, you don't really belong here, on various fronts. But as well as the did they only include me because I'm whatever? So I think the most profound thing that I have heard anybody say, and I deeply wish I could remember who I need to attribute this quote to because they deserve the credit for it, but I just don't remember, was that people who are experiencing imposter syndrome are experiencing that not because of any inherent flaws in the person who's experiencing it, but because of a broken system that has specifically been designed to keep people like us out. So we don't feel like we belong because the system was designed for us to not belong. So if you feel imposter syndrome, the flaw is not in you, which is a thing that it's really hard to hear and feel when you're experiencing imposter syndrome. But if it is helpful at all to sort of hold on to that piece of it, right? Like the reason we don't feel like we belong is because we have historically been excluded, right? We talk about this, the language that we use, and we talk about underrepresented minorities, but it's more accurate to say historically excluded groups, right? It's not that we weren't interested in these things. People from the various groups, obviously I don't represent all of the possible groups that have been historically excluded, right? But like, it's not that there wasn't interest, it's that they were not allowed. So that's one of the pieces. And to the extent that you're able to sort of incorporate that into your thought processes, that if you're feeling like you don't necessarily belong, that is nothing wrong with you. That is nothing wrong with you. And so I guess then one of the other pieces of dealing with the imposter syndrome is if you can incorporate that and sort of look at it as like, this is a structural issue. This is not a thing that I broke. This is not a thing that I did wrong. This is a systemic structural process that exists. And obviously, if I'm here, I had to work my butt off even harder to get here because the system is set up for people like me to not make it. The other thing that I can recommend, hugely helpful, very practical, and less of a like give yourself a pep talk thing because that doesn't always feel great. I have a folder. I have a folder called Why is Tessa Great? Or Why Tessa's Great. And literally the things that go into that folder are when I've been teaching and somebody tells me what a difference it made the way that I handled something, that they felt like, you know, they never thought that they could do X, Y, or Z, but now because I've talked to them and I've explained whatever, they're like, I never thought about that. Now look at this thing that maybe I could do. Or, you know, the things that are really just inspiring to me and the ways that I've touched other people's lives and made their lives better. All of that goes into that folder. And when I'm feeling particularly like, oh, I don't know if this is for me, like, I don't think I belong here. I've just tricked everybody into thinking I'm good enough at doing what I'm doing. And they're all going to figure it out eventually. I go and I dig into that folder and I'm like, you know what? Even if I was pretending, I did such a good job pretending that I made a difference in this person's life. I improved their lives. I made an impact in a way that was meaningful and tangible. So start your own folder of why you're awesome. And there will be days where you really feel your awesomeness. Make sure you like put stuff in your folder on that day, right? Little notes to yourself about whatever it is that you thought about. And it's hugely helpful for me, at least, and for a lot of other people I've heard.
Yeah, I love that. I also have like little sticky notes of affirmations, right? I think those are really helpful. I don't think it's silly. I think self-esteem is important in any career, and I really work hard at it. I also try to find passions outside of science. So I'm also a dancer. And so if I'm like not feeling good, I do what I'm good at. And then I'm like, you know what, I can do this. Like look what I just did. I'm good at this other thing. And I try to connect them together. And also you'll hear a lot of ignorant things, right? So I hear a lot of things that are sexist, right? I've had someone ask me in an interview, if I have plans to have kids, right? And it's like, that's rude and it's making a lot of assumptions and there's really no place for it, but you know, you kind of can't say anything. So just, you know, being able to have a thick skin is super important. And just try to cultivate that and, you know, just like let it roll by you, like maybe try to think of some diplomatic responses where you're also defending yourself. So if that's important to you, as well as just thinking about like you're playing the game at such a from a harder plane, right? You're literally on that treadmill super fast at an angle, but nobody can see that because they're not on the treadmill to see your settings are super, super crazy hard, right? And so thinking about things like that, like, well, yeah, of course they're going to say that. Of course they're having it easier. They don't have to worry about making rent. So yeah, they collect more data, but you know what? Considering all the things that I do, I'm right there by them. So you know what? If they want to look at that as a, you know, this, then you know, just reminding yourself of the reality of where you came from and how you're just, yeah, you're just playing it at, you're playing the game much harder. And I think remembering that, plus working on your self-esteem, like being kind to yourself, and again, cultivating other things that make you happy and going to them when you're not feeling great, including your support group and community, you're gonna be able to soften the blows of the inevitable imposter syndrome. But yeah, it's definitely hard. I feel like I've definitely encountered a lot of sexism too, not just classism and racism. Like I worked with a man who wouldn't even like look me in the eye, and or any woman, and it's just, and then you ask, you know, and it's like acceptable, right? Like what do you do if that person is if you're supposed to work with them on a project and they don't even think you're smart, right? You just have to learn to be resourceful. And it's not you, so just remembering it's not you. And yeah, it's like a mix of things, right? You have to find and see what techniques you're going to put together, string together to pick yourself up every time you encounter these things.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's like the guy that wouldn't look you in the eye. It's not you, it's him. It's his ignorance and not thinking that such intelligence, or that you have maybe even more to bring to the table than he knows, that you can enlighten him. It's like it's his ignorance and stereotypes. What about Cody or Renato? Because I don't think imposter syndrome is just a woman a woman thing.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, I think everybody goes through these times where they feel like you're just not good enough, or like, you know, you're not gonna cut it. I think on top of everything that's been said, like personally, like and maybe uh, I can get some additional feedback, but like I've stopped using words such as like, oh, I'm lucky to have this, or I'm lucky to have gone to, say, Michigan, like top 10 engineering school, or I'm lucky to be at Stanford. It's like, or I just got a 2-year fellowship. I'm like, I stopped using these words that like diminish like the hard work that like has gone in to achieve like um, these feats, you know, getting a PhD, um, putting out papers, putting out like, you know, because none of it comes like there is an element of like that you have to network and make it happen, but at the same time, you put in so much work that I feel like, at least for myself, like when I stop to talk like I'm lucky to have this, it's like it it lowers the stress down of like feeling of like I don't deserve this, or like I'm, you know, maybe I don't belong here, and my dreams of like wanting to be a professor are like not achievable because, you know, I'm just lucky to be here.
Yeah, that's I use those words all the time. I'm not going to use those anymore because I feel like, yeah, a lot of my achievements have been, they felt like luck, but maybe they weren't. But yeah, that is definitely a big problem that you know, you have to overcome. And it's not, yeah, like That's such a great saying. It's not you, it's them. It's really good. But I do want to say though, you could also kind of like, I feel like a lot of imposter syndrome is like also like it's like self-imposed because we have like a lot of stress and like we also want to accomplish things as scientists, right? So a lot of like we have our own like a lot of it is self-imposed, I would say, and sometimes that could be good, but sometimes it could be overwhelming, and you kind of have to balance like you have to balance life, you know. You have to do like other activities. Don't just focus on science all 100% of time, you know. And I think that can be really helpful to help like alleviate the stress and make you feel like appreciated and just less stressed, I guess.
Awesome. So I've had two questions that have come in. So, but it looks like if other students aren't asking questions, I encourage you at this point now to start. If you have questions that you want to include in this panel, please put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to keep asking questions. So because we get to keep our wonderful panelists for another just under 20 minutes. So please do put them in the chat. So the next one is around, so when I graduated college, it was like early 2000s, but just before the whole like Google and Facebook, just before that all came a thing. So like my top students that I graduated with, like we were kind of like, oh, that's the thing to do, is go to graduate school. But in today's day and age, with so much quick money and tech and all of these other areas, like what motivates you to pursue research, to pursue that PhD and postdoc? And then what are your goals with what you want to do with your degree?
I'm happy to answer that because I've been thinking about that extra hard lately. I'm in my fourth year. The pandemic put a wrench in my timeline, but I'm like mentally ready to graduate. And so for me, as I mentioned, I grew up so poor and my parents are poor. So I'm not going to lie, money is definitely a huge motivator for me. And something that because of that, I realized that as much as I do like teaching, I'm very likely to go into industry because, or at least for a few years, right? And so the motivation of being able to earn a cash back, so to speak, from this huge investment that I've done, and also that I'm going to have autonomy, right? Which is another way of saying freedom and control, which are things that I really love. That's part of why I went into grad school. I want to be an expert. I want to tell you what I want to do. I don't want you to tell me what to do, or we can work together, but I'm going to have a say in this, right? Because that's just how I am. That's my personality. And it's very empowering. And so for me, those are my main motivations, right? Like culturally speaking, there's still like a whole, like, you know, you're 35 and you're unmarried and this and that. And it's like, yeah, but I'm going to be paying the bills. I'm going to help my family. Like, I'm good. Like, I've got my dog, right? I'm going to have the life I always wanted. And I'm going to give that to my family, right? And that for me, yeah, just really drives me, as well as like the satisfaction of being able to use your mind to like accomplish something, like read a really dense paper. Like it really makes me feel good, like in a weird way that not very many things do. So I don't know, again, if that's like part of something with my personality, but it just is like so empowering, and it just feels like yeah, I just did that. Like I just read that thing and I understood it, and now I'm gonna go do a thing, and this thing is gonna help like lots of people, and no one's gonna know like that I was a part of it, but I know. And it was super fun and cool, and now like hopefully I can talk to other people so that they can also be involved if that's something that, you know, they're into, right? So I think like all these things together really motivate me. Like right now I'm applying for internships, and so like at tech companies, and so yeah, but I'm always, you know, very flexible. I know that I would do industry for a few years, but again, I've enjoyed teaching. But again, there's a huge trade-off that everyone will explore for themselves.
I could chime in. I think the reason I decided to go the PhD and then postdoc route was that it was funded. So that can be a double-edged sword, like Amanda said. It's really nice, and it's really nice because these are paid, and you get a stipend for living. I was fortunate to go to Michigan, where they really take care of their graduate students, which I really appreciated. And now I have a fellowship, so my finances are okay, but it's not for everybody. I would say that um, the industry is a really great and probably a better place to go, because I feel like people in academia are like always in this like ivory tower, like very snobby, like, oh, you're not in academia, that must mean you're not good enough or something. But there are like a ton of really amazing jobs, and a lot of really smart people in industry. I mean, probably even smarter than academia, honestly. So but both options are good. Just it's really up to you. I think for me it was just like I had this motivation to go and learn more, and it was provided for me for free, basically, or I was going to get paid to do it. So it made a lot of sense for me to do that.
Um, so I would say like this is a question that I struggle with, because I do have a daughter, and like, I'm married, and eventually I want to have more kids and have like a family, larger family. I would say it really came ahead for me even like a month and a half ago, because I got this like amazing fellowship that I worked really hard for, right? But there's no, now I get paid no more than I already did. So I did a ton of work, and my pay is the same. All the only thing that it meant was that like my advisor who I work for doesn't pay me now, like the American Heart Association pays me. And it was like, and nowhere else are you, I feel like if you do something really great and exceed expectations, are you just going to get the very baseline of what you already had, right? You do more, you get paid more. Additionally, like in academia, like um, like right now, like Cody and I, we have PhDs, and you know, we could leave academia and go to a tech company and make 2 to 2.5 times like what we are earning at Stanford. And so me being here means that every month I'm like losing out on money that I could potentially. So like, why do I stay? Uh, I like the idea of directing my own research. Like I said, like I want to, trailblaze my own path. I don't want somebody else's path. And in academia, like I'm allowed to ask the questions and investigate the questions that I want to. Um, at least like to a certain degree, I feel like I have more freedom. Additionally, like I love mentoring and I love the teaching aspect. So I feel like that to me is worth giving up, you know, some money to be able to participate in that. And so hopefully one day I can become a professor, and then I can do that for much longer, and also direct my research in an academic setting where I can mentor students, till my end of days. It seems like that's how long we stay in academia.
I think for me, I would like to be able to teach at a university. I had an opportunity to do some adjuncting. It sounds like not as much as Amanda's had a chance to do. So I am a little jealous of that, to be honest. It was chaotic, and I definitely didn't do as well as I would have liked to have done, but I loved it. I loved it so much. Getting to talk with students about just explaining things and seeing the light go on as they're like putting the pieces together, and that sort of thing was just really amazing. And being able to build the kind of classroom that was more open and more inclusive and gave people more opportunities to feel like they could be part of it was a huge, huge thing for me. It was really important to me to be able to do that. And I definitely want to be able to keep doing that. That being said, I'm a single parent. I've got a 7-year-old who is amazing. I adore that child beyond all belief. But being a single parent is not an easy thing. Being a single parent as a grad student in the middle of COVID, it's a lot. It's a lot. And trying to make sure that, I'm taking good care of my kid, and I'm taking good care of my research, and I'm taking good care of myself as a human being, so that I have some things that are just for me. All of that is really hard to do. And to be honest, the way that academia is structured, that's not going to get easier. Like that, there will be more responsibilities, there will be more things to juggle, there'll be more classes to prep. And as much as I love those pieces, I don't know that I can sustain it right now, because I've, especially with COVID and single parenting, I haven't been able to get in any more teaching experience. So I TA'd while I was at Dianza, and I TA'd also while I was at San Jose State. And then I haven't since I've come to Stanford. And the chance that I had to adjunct was actually during my leave of absence, while I was trying to get out of an abusive marriage. That then, when I came back to grad school, then now, as a single parent, there isn't time to, in addition to getting my work done, to also teach. So when I graduate, I'm going to be probably trying to build back up my tutoring business. I formerly had a tutoring business that I've sort of let lay to the wayside while I've been doing grad school because I've not had the time. And so rekindle that, because I know that I can make good money doing that, and then try and pick up some classes adjuncting so that I can have teaching experience, and then see what, if anything, is available. But I need to stay in this area, because again, I'm having to navigate co-parenting, which is a very interesting experience. So all of those pieces, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do what I'd really like to do, which is to teach. Whether that's at a community college or at a 4-year university, I actually don't have a strong preference for it. I like being able to teach the basics, and I like being able to do it in a way that's accessible and gives people good building blocks. And also, when I was able to adjunct, I was teaching a fairly high level genetics, developmental neurogenetics class that was so much fun. It was so much fun to be able to do a deep dive into these really complicated topics with, upper level undergrads, which is not something that I'd be able to do at a community college. So all of that being said, I still have to, feed and clothe myself and my child. And that means that, what I ultimately do might be really focusing on my tutoring business and just making my living through that, and not really being able to teach. But I am finding that I don't enjoy the actual hands-on lab pieces as much as I used to. And I don't know, I've heard that's just like a very normal senior grad student thing, that like most people, by the time they're like getting closer to graduating, they're just like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to see a bench. But maybe I'll feel differently once I finish this degree.
Awesome. So a couple questions came in at the last minute, but we have 5 minutes left. So I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to go around and share. Maybe really quick in like a minute. And I know this is a big subject, but one question that I thought was worth bringing up is, has anyone encountered mental health issues, and have you felt support in the workplace that you're currently in? If someone could just jump in quickly on that topic, I did think that was worth bringing up.
Yet another reason why I can't stay in academia. Like, the culture is moving towards helping people with their mental health, but it's still, old habits die hard. And yes, absolutely, a lot of anxiety and depression, not just me, but almost everyone I've ever talked to, like so many people really just, it's just a really intense culture that it is slowly changing, but it is very, you know, there's pros and cons, but the cons really hurt, right? And mental health, definitely I feel very affected. A lot of times the pandemic has only made it worse. You know, but we do what we can, and that's why you just hope that your advisor will hopefully try to, you know, even if they can't understand your situation, they can still be empathetic to give you some wiggle room to really take care of yourself. But that's a great question.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Amanda. So if everyone could go around and just give one final piece of advice that they would share with our students, like what's that one kind of like nugget that you can share with our students? And then also if you could follow that up with how can our students get in touch with you? And students, I really encourage you, like I know that Tessa wrote in here somewhere that she's encountered abuse. And if there's anyone that would like to talk to her further about that, please reach out to her. So I think that's, we didn't get a chance to touch on that, but again, they're opening up themselves for you to reach out and talk to them. I know Renato, she's not on this call, or this person's on this call, but we have a few people who are in a situation of also being a dreamer or being undocumented. And I'm sure they would love to reach out and talk to you further about that. So just really quick. So what I'm telling our students is like, when they say, hey, I'm happy to talk more about this, reach out, like definitely copy and paste their contact information and reach out to them, you know, follow up and help, and, you know, help them and learn to build your community and your network. And more so just like your supportive community with our amazing panelists. So final words, if you could just give last piece of advice, and then how can students get in touch with you? We'll just, Renato, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, if I could say really shortly, like I don't feel like I'm any smarter than anybody else in this room and this chat room, I should say. See, look, and there's like nothing necessarily like that has been like, you know, like so high level that like I feel like it cannot be done. I think like putting in the work and knowing that like just having somebody tell you that like, hey, you can do it has been enough for me to keep going and to show that like this is possible. And I think like I say that to tell everybody that like, you know, you're building your way up, and it's one brick at a time, and just keep chugging along, and you will also make it, no matter what it is that your like passion or your goal is, like you will get there.
That was what I was gonna say, Renato. Don't give up. That's what I had to say. Don't give up. If you have a dream and you want to achieve it, just never give up.
I would say just be extremely determined and resilient, right? And that kind of bleeds into being resourceful. Nothing worth having comes easy. Just remembering that nothing, if it's going to be awesome, it's not going to be easy. Even if you decide not to go to grad school, right? If you decide to go be a software engineer, you have to learn how to code, right? It's not going to be easy. So just knowing that it's normal, and as long as you can provide these other things like the resilience and like I'm gonna keep at it, like that's gonna be what sets you apart.
I think along similar lines, two things. One is the same kind of idea. Persistence matters more than perfection, or as Dory puts it, keep on swimming. And then the other piece is really, I really mean it when I tell you to build your community. People who will be in your corner and root for you and want you to succeed, you know, and help to hold you accountable where you need to be held accountable, and hold your hand when you're like, oh my God, I really bombed that test, I don't know how I'm going to recover, is so important. It's so important. And I would not have even remotely succeeded without my community. So
Thank you. And on that note, so let me actually end So on that note, I want to thank you all so much for your participation, and then let me end the recording. Actually, I just want to say a few words that say this. I mean, your stories have, I know that I'm getting messages now. They've really resonated with so much of our students. We try to tell them so many times, you can do it. I try to share my story as much as I can, but it's just been so impactful and empowering and inspiring for our students to hear your journeys, and not just that, you've all been so vulnerable about your struggles and how you're facing them and overcoming them. And so I really thank you so much for your words. And then on that note, I want to